Good morning. You're tuned into the big story here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. This is where we get to discuss key issues shaping our nation and our economy at large. Today, we're focusing on the rising cost of living in Nigeria, exploring the challenges and the possible solutions. Nigeria has faced a significant increase in the cost of living in recent years, affecting everything from food prices and housing to transportation and education. This situation has further pushed millions more Nigerians down the poverty hole. But how are different socio-economic groups coping with this? And what possible policy interventions and community-based solutions should the government undertake to mitigate the impact on the people? Well, to examine this and so much more, we are being joined by Oluwole Crowther, BusinessDay's economic research analyst. Welcome to the show, Crowther.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
It's good to have you on the show today.
I'm also happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's talk about the primary factors contributing to the current surge in the cost of living in Nigeria.
Thank you very much for that wonderful question. You know, since May 2023, when this current administration came in, they came with a lot of policies, probably some of them unplanned, because the first thing the president did was to remove subsidy on the day of his inauguration. So, and whereas in other climes you see government engaging the citizens that you want to remove fuel subsidy or electricity subsidy, so they do engaging. After the engagement, they look for ways to lessen the pains before removing the subsidy itself. So unplanned, subsidy is gone, and it was gone. Then at the same time, FX as well, that is our foreign exchange too, was devalued, kind of moving from about 460 naira to a dollar in 2023, going to about 1,500, 1,600 in 2025. So now these factors now, fuel subsidy removals, number one. Number two, FX devaluations. In short, this one is by miles one of the major factors contributing to current inflationary pressures in Nigeria. And experts like Taiwo Idele, Tilewa Adebajo, they first said that, this FX has contributed immensely to the inflation rate. What about the monetary policy rate from the CBN? When the administration, when they came in 2023, I think MPR, that is monetary policy rate, was about 80.75% or so, and currently it is around 27.25%. It has increased immensely as well, meaning that the maybe you are a producer, a manufacturer, the cost of borrowing has increased, and that cost of borrowing, you have to factor it in as part of your cost of production, because as a producer you are not supposed to bear those costs. You have to pass it, and if you are not passing 100% of it, it's either you give the consumer 70% or you share it 50-50. So in one way or the other, those costs are going to be passed to the consumers. Then these are major variables that has really contributed to the inflationary pressures in Nigeria. Remember, if once fuel subsidy is removed, it's going to have direct effect on cost of transportation in Nigeria. And we know that the major cost of moving goods and services in Nigeria is the common one is by road, right? So meaning that you cannot move your goods the cheapest has to be rail, but the country is not connected with rail. So these are the factors that has contributed immensely to the high cost of living in Nigeria.
And let's also talk about the Naira exchange rate volatility. What role does the Naira exchange rate play in driving up the cost of imported goods and affecting local production itself?
Thank you very much. As I've said earlier, I told you that naira volatility is by far the highest contributor to this inflationary pressure in Nigeria. Now, if you check many of our manufacturers, many of them they have foreign loans. So if you have foreign loans, probably imagine you took a loan at the rate of let's say naira to $1. So by the time exchange rate is being devalued, or there is depreciation in naira to $1, so if that money goes to 200 naira to it goes from 100 naira to $1. Now it's moving from 100 naira. You borrowed the money at the rate of 100 naira to $1.
Right.
Now by the time you are now repaying back, it's now about 200 to $1. You can see that if you are not careful, you can run out of business because you'll be paying back in doubles. This aside the interest rates on the money. There's there will be interest rate on every money you borrow. Aside that, so the money itself has increased due to the fact that by the time you are converting from your local currency to the foreign currency, so the cost has risen. That's one. Then many of our manufacturers, the inputs they used, like raw materials, the machineries, and so many other things, they are imported. So if this volatility increases the cost of those goods, meaning that it has also increased the cost of production. And if cost of production goes up, it means the price must goes up. Now, what about our farmers too? Many of their inputs too that they use on their farmland are imported. Is it the fertilizers? Many of those fertilizers, they are being imported, and some of their tools. So now, if these things are being imported and the exchange rates keep rising, it means that their own cost of production too will also increase. So this is why sometimes we said that probably the CBN should intensify more efforts on stabilizing the naira. There's been so much attention on interest rates.
Right.
Yes, interest rate is good to say, oh, inflation has increased. We are also increasing interest rates. That's what has made the game of the CBN governor. So later we came out and said that no, we can't continue like this. So government should just focus its attention on this exchange rate, because if exchange rate is bad, the economy will also be bad, and that's where that's make us to be where we are today. So exchange rate is by far the most important variables that government should always watch out for, and government should make sure that it puts all its efforts to make sure that this thing is stabilized. Yes. So that's just it. That's how exchange rate has caused these issues for me.
Right. So but let's also talk about how this has affected households, in terms of food. I mean, you've given a little bit of an idea, but in terms of food, in terms of housing, in terms of transportation, how has this rising cost of living also affected people? I mean, you feel free to also give personal examples.
Household, if you check normally globally, the standard benchmark for household spending is supposed to be maybe between 15 to 30% or 50 to 35% of your income supposed to go for food consumption. But in Nigeria, unfortunately for us, many Nigerians are spending based on the data from Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. Nigeria is spending close to 60% of their income on food consumptions, meaning that what comes in goes on food consumption, which means other
necessary
other necessities. Yes, they are being left behind.
Wow.
Imagine if you have spent close to 60% of your income on food, while transportation takes about, let's say, 6 to 10%. It means you might probably have nothing else to cater for your health. So, and that's why you see that many people now patronize all these roadside drug sellers. People cannot afford to go to the hospital.
And that's even bad for your health, because some of
Yes.
these things are not, and they are fake.
Yes, they are fake.
They might even be compounding your problem.
They are fake because they be sending them to you at a very
discount rate.
Yes, very cheap rate. But they are damaging their body, but it's not their fault. Now again, on food, them we're in Lagos, right?
Right.
The food that we consume here, I think majority of them are being brought down to Lagos from the northern part of the country. Now, to move as at last year, maybe August, let's say maybe October last year, when I consulted a driver that engaged in this logistics of a thing, I asked him that how much if I want to take my goods from here to the north or from the north to down here, how much do you charge? So he told me it's about 2 million naira.
Wow.
So, and before that time, this will have maybe around 600, 700, 1 million. So from now, I know I don't really have the current price. Mean that price might have really jumped to 2.5 or 3 million. So it is as a result of subsidy removal impacted the cost of moving those goods. It's not as if those goods are actually so very high where they are being harvested. No, but the cost of moving them is exorbitant, and nobody is running a business to make losses. You are running the business in order for it to make profits.
Right.
So now this has also increased the cost of food. In fact, the food inflation, according to World Bank data, has increased by 40% in Nigeria. So, and that's too much. That's too much. Then another thing is that housing, landlord, both landlord that have new houses and those ones that have old
houses,
they also they said
they've
all increased their payment. Now, for instance, no house that we used to get for about 300,000 naira before, landlord increased to about 700. It's even more that they're even increasing more, is going beyond 100% now. Like they're increasing their money by 150, and if you ask them, they will tell you that we are all going to the same market. And some of these landlords will tell you that I don't have any other thing I'm falling on. The pension government is paying me, it's not enough for me. So this is the only thing I have, and we all go to the same. So those who are building the new houses, that their houses, they are renting their apartments out 1 million naira. I mean that I built my house 30 years ago. We are all going to the same market. So I have to increase. So meaning that many people are being forced to be living far away from their place of work. And this indirectly or directly
impact on the health.
Yes, and productivity.
The system is also even terrible. So
yes,
how do you even...
it impacts on the health, not only health alone, it also impacts on productivity.
Right.
So imagine if you have to travel like 2-3 hours before you get to your place of work. Then what else do you want to do?
Trip. By the time you get to your office,
yes,
you really don't want to do
You've lost the entire productive days. The entire productive days inside traffic. So these are the ways I think it has really affected the household for me. That's just it for me.
And what are some of the implications of this for Nigeria's unemployment rate and even the poverty level?
This is a sad reality for us. Even though, when we say subsidy must go, yes, many people, at least majority, were told that once subsidy is gone, they will channel these excesses from subsidy to other things of life that make life easier for us. But unfortunately for us, as at 2023, the number of poor people in Nigeria was just about 104 million Nigerians.
As at 2023?
104 million Nigerians.
Okay.
As I'm speaking now, according to World Bank data, the number of Nigerians living in poverty has increased to 129 millions. Meaning that this policy, it has deepened poverty in the land. And the whole idea of policy is to make life better
and easier.
Yes, for the citizens, but it's not making people to be worse off instead of being better off. Although some may say that, we always have these things in short time, but in the long run things will be better. But the truth of the matter is that if at all poverty rate is supposed to increase, it's not supposed to increase by that margin. So it has deepened a lot. Now, unemployment rate, God will help us in this country. Unemployment rate should be about 33% before now. So later, the NBS, our Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, they said the methodology has to be changed. So
what do we have now?
So they now said if you can work a minimum of 1 hour per day, it means you are what? Employed. So currently in Nigeria, unemployment rate in Nigeria is about 5%.
Where were we before?
We used to be at 30% before.
Okay.
We are now at 5%. Now
isn't that lower?
It's 5%.
Okay.
Current data says 5%. Now, if you go to normally any country that can have, it's okay. Let me tell you something in development economics.
Right.
Relationship between unemployment rates. Let's say unemployment and poverty are supposed to be inverse. That is, if unemployment rate increases, it's supposed to be direct. Unemployment and poverty, that relationship is supposed to be direct relationship. That is, if unemployment increases, poverty also increases.
Okay.
But in our own case, from 33% to 5% unemployment, then poverty from 104 million to 129. You can see the abnormal stuffs here. And if you check keenly, countries that have this level of unemployment, their per capita income is as high as 12,000 per head, 15,000 per head, 22,000 per head. You go to United Kingdom, unemployment is around 4%. If you go to United States of America, same thing. If you go to China, same situation. But why is it that in Nigeria we see unemployment rate is 5% and poverty is increasing at the same time?
Okay, so what is happening is the unemployment rate has dropped, but the poverty is increasing.
Yes.
So that means it's almost like people are earning, but their earnings are not commensurate to the cost of living.
You are correct. The earnings is not commensurate to the cost of living, and at the same time, World Bank released a report last year, their NDU for October last year, 2024, right? So according to them, they said that only 12.4% of Nigerians engage in wage job. 12.4% of Nigerians engage in wage job. And wage job are the jobs that can take you out of poverty. Meaning that many Nigerians are working, the work they are doing cannot take them out of poverty. They don't engage in productive jobs that can take them out of poverty. So meaning that you can work for 30 years and you still be living in poverty. That's what it means. 12.5% out of over how many workers in Nigeria that we have. Then the recommendation there was that governments must collaborate with the private sectors to create a wage productive jobs that can take people out of poverty. In Nigeria, I think my colleague was here sometimes ago. He was talking about Ojabilo.
Right.
Yes, I think you had that discussion with him when he was talking about informal sector. Now, Nigeria, for instance, now many of the jobs that we have in Nigeria are informal jobs, and informal jobs to larger extent cannot really take people out of poverty. That's just the reality, because Nigerians they live on daily basis What do I mean by that? We all know Yemi Kale, former chief economist of KPMG, and he was also former director general at NBS. He said something. He said, if an average Nigerian, majority of Nigerians, if they don't go out on a particular day, they won't be able to feed for that day. That's a problem. So if you don't go out, if you are sick today now, because you are sick and you cannot go to work,
it sets you behind your poverty level.
Yeah, it means for that day you will not be able to feed, and your family will not be able to feed. It's a problem.
It's a problem.
Yes. So meaning that people are just working on daily basis to earn a living. So after that day, the what next is tomorrow. And we saw the implication during was it NSAS or during no, not NSAS, during COVID-19 lockdown.
Right.
I think the lockdown was, by the time lockdown reached about 2-3 days, the first, second or third days, people started looting shops. Have you forgotten?
I remember crystal clear because I was seeing it from my window.
So people started looting shops. They started stealing here and there because they live on daily basis. So since there's lockdown, it means they cannot feed for those days, so they have to look for something to eat. So these kind of situations we find ourselves. So the truth is that unemployment rate that we have in Nigeria is not an actual, does not depict the reality on ground. Many people are still not employed. So government must find a way to collaborate with the private sectors to create a productive jobs for the citizens. Yeah.
And so when you say I was going to cut you short, but I just wanted you to finish your train of thought. So you talked about wage jobs.
Yes.
Because my next question for you was going to, talk about how government can collaborate with the private sector, which you've alluded to, that government needs to collaborate with the private sector. So, and your own recommendation is to create more wage jobs. That's your own recommendation.
Yes.
And what are these wage jobs?
So, wage jobs are productive jobs that can actually take people out of poverty. We're not talking about jobs in the informal sector. Now, if you look at Nigeria today, it's more or less like Nigeria was even more industrialized than the way it is now today, because the Nigerian business environment is very harsh. The cost of production is very high in Nigeria. In fact, if you're a manufacturer, it is profitable for you to just import what you are producing and be selling in Nigeria than for you to sit down in Nigeria and be producing those commodities. Meaning that if you are a manufacturer in Nigeria, you are really a big man. You are a big man because it is very difficult. High cost of electricity. And those even with the high cost of electricity, the electricity itself is not even stable. You have to augment it with buy of diesels that is as high as over 1,000. I think over 1,000 naira, the cost of diesels. So imagine if you are paying heavily on energy when your colleague in China, in South Korea, yes, they are getting energy subsidy. So when I said government should collaborate with private sector, what I mean is that government should create an enabling environment for private sector to thrive. When government says subsidy is gone, the recommendation there was that government must now replace subsidy with targeted subsidy. Subsidy has to be targeted. Now, you say, for instance, now this particular industry in Nigeria now, they are actually facing heavy cost of productions. Let us subsidize this thing for them. Because if you subsidize those things for them, it makes the cost of production to be cheaper. And if the cost of production is cheaper, they are going to sell the cheaper goods as well. So, at the same time, private sectors have huge role to play in job creations. Government is limited when it comes to creation of jobs, because government most times they're always mad with corruptions. So that's why we always say that allow private sectors to do this, because private sectors are being driven by incentives. So the fact that they are being driven by incentives, and what is that incentives? Is to make profits. So since it's profit they want to make, then once the environment is right for them, they create these jobs, and that jobs must be majorly in manufacturing.
Right.
Because we have to if you don't manufacture, the truth of the matter is that we are going nowhere.
We'll be import dependent. Yeah.
Yes. And if you are import dependent, if you are importing, it means you are taking where you are importing from, you are taking their poverty, you are taking their unemployment.
Wow.
Why they are taking your own foreign exchange? Because imagine what you are supposed to earn in terms of dollars, you are giving it to them. The job you are supposed to create here, you are giving it to them. So the shared prosperity we are supposed to have in Nigeria, you are giving it to them. So that's why I say that we have to, you must manufacture. And thanks to the current tax bill that is being passed at the National Assembly, if you check this bill very well, it has a priority sector. So, and this priority sector simply means that we have agric, we have electricity is also part of it. I think we have production of drugs and here and there. So what this means is that if you bring it, they have a minimum amount you can bring into that into that sector for investment. If you bring such amount of money, they will give you 5% tax credits.
Right.
So and that tax credit can last up to 30 years, meaning that if you bring investment for up to 30 years, you might not really need to pay taxes. So this agenda is to increase, is to encourage production capacity in Nigeria. But one problem is that, do we really have the political will to implement these bills? Because it's one thing to pass the bills, there's another thing for us to implement it. Yes. So before I leave here, I want to mention something that I realize that many analysts have not been talking about. The truth of the matter is that if Nigeria is going to really create a shared prosperity or economic prosperity for its people, it has to start from political reform. You know, presently what we have is economic reform, right? And we said, and the economic reform has deepened poverty. So every reform in any nation starts politically.
What about policy reforms?
Yes, policy reform is also part of politics.
Okay.
So when we say politics, you know, the fact that people's votes cannot really count is also a problem. So if we are not doing things right politically, it will be very difficult for us to do things right economically. And the history is filled with examples all over the world. The England we see today, I mean the Great Britain, they got their economic reform. Their economic reform started from political reform. In the United States, same thing. If you go to the French, everything started politically. So if we cannot get things right politically, that's all this, everything we have been saying, government should do this and that, politics will always weigh back the private sectors. So because private sectors need a strong institutions from the government, and the institutions from the government is very weak, it seems they may not be able to thrive. So yeah.
So just before I let you go, are there any lessons that we can learn from some countries that have been able to tackle the same challenges and succeeded? Countries like Egypt, countries like Indonesia. Are there any lessons we can borrow from them?
Yeah, so many lessons. For instance, in Egypt removed, Egypt recently removed electricity subsidy, and before they do that, there was wider consultations everywhere. And they first of all, they started from the big wings, like from the manufacturers who can actually absorb the shock of that subsidy removal. So they started, it's a kind of a phase level. So they started from them.
Right.
Then later to the household. So they did it in a gradual ways. So it's not so just remove at once, like a shock. Did it. Even in Indonesia as well, these guys too, when they remove subsidy, it was done gradually. And as they were doing it gradually, they were also putting conditional. In short, Indonesia started with unconditional cash transfer before they now started conditional cash transfer to people. So, and in Nigeria as well, I think in Nigeria has also been doing these things, but it's not really that, it's not really widespread. They have been sent, I think maybe 25,000 has been given to the household, and according to World Bank, it's about 6 million Nigerians have gotten this amount of money. So some through their verifiable NIN and BVN, some they could not verify them, but close to 6 million Nigerians have gotten this, 6 million households have gotten this money. But World Bank said that it has to scale up. They have to scale this thing up. Many Nigerians are still yet to be touched with government conditional transfer. But because this was supposed to be like a shock absorber to these people. You have taken subsidy away from petrol they enjoy, from this and that they enjoy. Then give them something that may need to cushion the effect of this subsidy. So the lesson here is that government should also be transparent in everything they are doing. Even in this cash transfer they have been doing, I've been hearing people saying that they say we should come and pay 500 naira. Imagine they want to register you for government subsidy payment, conditional transfer payment. They ask you to come and pay money for you to register, and at the end of the day, by the time they eventually get that money from with your BVN or NIN, they may still not give you the whole amount of. So why are we using political party to be implementing cash transfer? We're not supposed to be doing that. So government supposed to maybe use independent bodies to conduct these things. But party members are the one doing it. You can go and verify what I'm saying. They are the one doing these things, and most of the times, these things they always give it. The first people they always give it to their members. It is their members. So what's that the essence of conditional cash transfer or conditional cash transfer that many people cannot enjoy except your party members? So I would just say that government should be transparent in this conditional or unconditional cash transfer that they are giving to the people. Although it will not really lessen the burden, but to larger extent, it will do something.
It will also just help to douse the situation. Thank you so much, Oluwole Crowther, for your time this morning.
Thank you.
On The Big Story. It was a really insightful conversation. I'm truly grateful that you joined us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, this has been The Big Story on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Keep watching BDTV.